Hi y'all, welcome to my channel. My name is Marjorie Cook. Thanks so much for dropping by. If this is your first visit, welcome, welcome. If you've been here before, well, you just made my day. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll get a notice every time I upload a new episode. And it helps my channel grow too. If you have a second, we'd love to hear from you in the comments, whether it's a helpful hint about today's project or just a quick hello. Let's get started. Today we're going to make this darling little travel trailer. This is mostly Dollar Tree items. There's a couple of things that aren't, and when we get to them I will let you know where I got them. So the first thing that we're going to do is pick out the paper of our choice. I went with this map of the world, and we're going to fit it to the table decor block that I got at the Dollar Tree. I'm using my homemade Mod Podge and just a very light coat. You don't have to use a lot because you really just want to hold the paper in place. You're going to stick that on there and let it dry. Once it's completely dry, I like to use the sandpaper technique to get it off of the edges. And here I am, I'm just setting it over, and I'm going to paint the little wheels that were a found item in our garage of our new house, actually. But you can get these at the Hobby Lobby. Just about any hobby store will have them. They're usually for little soapbox derby kind of cars or models or things like that. And I'm painting them all with black chalk paint, and you see me going over spots quite often, and that's because the smoother you get the paint when you put it on, the less brush strokes you're going to get when it dries. And so I'm just smoothing the paint out really, really well because I didn't want any brush strokes on the tires. I went ahead and painted 4, but I ultimately only used 2 of them. I also painted some bamboo skewers to use as axles. So now I'm using the sandpaper to take off the dried scrapbooking paper from the actual wooden block piece. And once that comes completely off, you're going to see that the edges lifted just a little bit because, like I said, I put a really light coat underneath, but I knew that I'd be going back and sealing those edges in once I took the extra paper off. So now I'm going through and just sealing in the edges really, really well and putting another coat. Yes, that quarter got down real good. This homemade, it's just glue and water. It's, white school glue and water is all you need, and it's way cheaper than Mod Podge. So I'm putting a coat over the top, and I'm also just taking out whatever tiny little wrinkles or bubbles showed up. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to paint the edge, but since some of the glue did get on the edges, I'm doing the entire edge so it has the same finish in the event I decide not to paint it. And once I've got all that on there, I'm going to set that off to dry. And once it's dry, it's time to do the wheels. So I put the axle on and the wheels, and I decide exactly where I'm going to put them. And this is where I discover I never plugged in my hot glue gun. So I mark the spot and I plug it in, and I come back a little bit later and it's all hot now. So I'm going to glue on the axle first. It's just a little bamboo skewer. And then the wheels, making sure that the flat sides are in and the tooled side, or the carved side, is out. And they fit perfectly. They were such a perfect scale for this wooden block. I mean, and I think it's MDF, which is a manufactured wood kind of a thing. See, and I decided not to do the 2 wheels because if I'd done the 2 wheels like it was a dually trailer, I wouldn't have enough room for the door. So now I've got an axle and 2 wheels, I can make another one. So I'm using just little popsicle sticks from the Dollar Tree to make the front hitch, cutting them at an angle so that they'll fit on that curved edge real nicely. and just using a set of pliers for that, wire cutters. So here I'm just making sure that I get the angles right, hit it with some high temp hot glue, and measure it again, measure twice. And once I make sure that it's the right angle, here I go, then I go ahead and make sure it dries really, really well. And I paint it. Time to paint it black. Anything that is going to look like wrought iron or like an exterior iron, with the black paint, I did a really thick, nice black coat. It came up a little bit distressed where I missed a spot or two, but I went ahead and left it because, you know, these things get weathered. I actually live on Fort Clark, and it's a retirement community for full-time RVers for the most part. And boy, these RVs, they go places, man. They see the world. And so the hitches don't always look new when they're done. So I paint the hitch, and then I paint this block to use as the rest. Like when the trailer is not hooked up to a truck, it usually is up on a block of some kind. So I painted that in anticipation for later in the project, but I ended up not actually using it for that. So you'll see there's 2 blocks glued together on the side there. That's what I end up using. So then I used some glue, just a little bit of hot glue, to put that on the edge there, kind of at an angle where I mitered those edges on the popsicle stick, and hold it in place. I'm not burning myself, don't worry, fingers are fine. Use my homemade Mod Podge again to put this ribbon on. This ribbon I got at Walmart for like $3. Used a tiny little bit of it. It frayed. It was actually a wired ribbon. So I cut the wires off and cut it down the middle to get a thin strip, and it frayed, and so I pulled some threads off so that it would continue to fray. And you just met Danny K. Danny K is a tuxedo kitten. He's about going on 7 months old now, and his twin brother, Bing Crosby, is of course, you know, a litter mate, so they're the same age, but their names are Bing Crosby and Danny K. And anybody who has seen Christmas Vacation from National Lampoon with Chevy Chase can guess what Danny's middle name is, but please don't put it in the comments. That would be bad. But yeah, so I've got that stripe on there because, you know, all RVs have stripes. And I used the pieces that I cut off as the windows. And I thought, well, you know, they have curtains in them, so wouldn't it be nice if the curtains matched the stripe down there? So using the bamboo skewer again, I went ahead and made window frames for the outside of the window so that they would look like the curtains were on the inside. And you'll notice I'm twisting the bamboo skewer in the pliers before I cut through. I have found that that will really prevent them from splintering and flattening out when you cut them. That it just kind of like gives it a precursor of where it needs to cut, and they look a lot nicer if you do that. So now we are cleaning our tweezers of, you know, glue and all the things that Cricut didn't plan on me using their tweezers for. And I'm putting the framework on. Now, it just so happened I had a happy accident here, because when I put down the 2 long pieces, they were not exactly in alignment. They were just slightly off, which is good, because in order for me to get those side pieces on right, I kind of needed them to be off center, and it worked out really well. So just kind of watch closely how I am putting the sides on. And when I do the other window, I actually put on the bamboo in, you know, a rotation rather than top, bottom, side, because that way I didn't have to worry about measuring it exactly to fit between 2 pieces of bamboo. I was able to line it up and cut it even, and it worked out really, really well. And so just a little bit of hot glue, and just takes a second to dry, and then cut it straight across. Do a little bit of, pre-cutting there, and there it goes, right in place. And now that I've got both windows done, I am putting them both in there. So there's a living room window, and then the tall skinny one way towards the back, that would be like, I don't know, the lavatory window, I guess. And I did forget to stain the window frames before I put them on. So now I'm measuring out the popsicle sticks, and these are just the little tiny ones, standard size, for the door. And again, rocking it back and forth, getting a nice clean cut, but I use my little sanding pad there to smooth them out. And then I use that as a template for the other sticks, and I'm lining up to see how many I need. I figure I'm going to need 4 altogether. So I'm cutting them all down, and then I'll go back and I'll sand all those edges too. Another happy accident at this point is that all 4 of them are not exactly even. And I decided to keep them that way because I thought it made it look a little bit more rustic, a little bit more, hobo beach. After I'd stained them and it looked so weathered, I thought, well, why not? If you're going to hang out at the beach or travel the world in your rig, maybe you did make a new door for your rig out of driftwood. And maybe they're not going to be exactly even. If you want them to be completely even, then certainly once you've got it all together, you can rub it on some sandpaper and get it completely straight across the top and the bottom. But I just went ahead and lined up one side and left the other side a little uneven because I thought it added a little character to it. So to color the sticks, I'm just using the Waverly black chalk paint. It's the color ink. And I watered it down a lot. I actually just used my paint cleaning cup and seriously watered it down. And now I'm going back and I'm staining the windows as well. And the color just came out gorgeous. But I wish I had done this part prior to, and then I wouldn't have had to be quite so careful to not get it on the scrapbooking paper. I chose a location on the scrapbooking paper specifically for that compass because we're going to be doing a compass design on the floor right in front of our front door, and this piece will be in our foyer area, so it'll tie in really nicely. Oh, if you just heard that crash, that would be Danny, middle name not allowed, K, climbing up on my Cricut cabinet. Bad kitty. Don't even think about it. Get down from there. Oh my Lord. Okay, so I'm still staining the door. Now I'm going to make the cross pieces for it. Kitty, kitty. Oh my gosh. I did the same thing with these 2 pieces where I left them longer and cut them to size once they were attached. It also gives you a little piece to hold on to while you're attaching. And snippety snippety. Those are straightened off. I work with large size wood as well, if only it were this easy. When I was making the strips to cover our kitchen cabinets, we took them from 1980s prairie to more of a modern look, and that was a lot harder. But now I'm trying to split it, and it didn't split right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it with my Walmart special X-Acto blade from when I used to be a vendor at Walmart, and they gave me one of their knives. And I'm cutting them on a mitered 45-degree angle, so they'll fit, the edges will fit next to the cross beams. Sand them a little bit, and then it fits just perfect right in there. And if it didn't fit just perfect, it still would have been perfect. It would have been perfectly imperfect, which is kind of what crafting is all about. It looks homemade. If we want it to look exact, we would have a computer cut it for us. Which is funny because I did just mention my Cricut cabinet. I use my Cricut a lot. If I had a Cricut maker, I probably would have cut this door out of balsa wood on a Cricut maker. And I'm staining it down a little bit. It still came out lighter than the rest, and I was just running out of black paint inside the water is all. So then I'm positioning that in, hot gluing it down. And there we have it. We're almost completely done. Unfortunately, my camera is going to run out here soon. The SD card filled up before I finished, and I didn't realize it. So I am wrapping the very front of the hitch with twine only because I needed that little millimeter of space. I needed it to rise up that little millimeter of space. So I'm wrapping it up in twine, which in scale is kind of like rope, you know, when you put it in scale. So wrapping that up. Hello again, Danny K. And once that is all dried, I'm going to set it on that double block. Okay, so I do end up painting that double block, and I think I'm going to start painting it here, but what you won't get to see is when I attach the whole thing together. So if you like this video, please do not forget to hit that like button before you go. And if you want to see more like this, I've got 4 or 5 videos already filmed and ready to edit. Please subscribe. And here she is all done. I went ahead and put a wreath for the holidays, although this is going to be a year-round item. I hope you like it, and a wave to my grandbaby there in the background. And we hope to see you again soon. Thanks for dropping by.